Today's presentation comes from our Coping with COVID-19 workshop series, focusing on social isolation and strategies to stay connected. This workshop comes from the Counseling and Psychological Services Office, CAPS. My name is Liv Mercer. I am one of the mental health counselors. You can find our office in the IU Health Center on the 4th floor and get in touch with us by dialing 812-855-5711. Today's workshop is going to function very similarly to any of our live workshops if you've attended one of those before. So for that reason, you're going to need about 45 to 50 minutes available to be able to accurately and adequately go through this full video, as well as offering yourself enough time to pause the video to record your answers to any of the journal prompts listed. We do have several journal prompts throughout all of our video series and live workshops to be able to encourage students to think further about the content that's being discussed, what might be getting in the way for them and their individualized experiences, to be able to develop additional insight and have something to take away from the workshop. So for that reason, I encourage you to have a pen, a piece of paper, perhaps a pencil, or if you prefer typing, you can always use the note section of your phone or your computer to type and record your responses. Diving into the content, I do find that it's vitally important to talk about this concept called adaptive anxiety. And if you logged on to any of our live workshops related to COVID-19 or watched our COVID-19 workshop related to anxiety, you have heard this content before. And we find that it's just vitally important to revisit it because anxiety is very much a shared sentiment right now for individuals. As a result of the current pandemic, many people are feeling anxious, helpless, confused, scared, uncertain, a lot of very difficult anxious emotions. And because of the global threat and the level that we're at, it is a very normal and valid response to be having. Just because it is normal and valid, however, doesn't mean that the intensity and the chronicness of these anxious or mental health related responses can't have effects on your physical health. We know that chronic anxiety can lead to harms such as pain, fatigue, and even increased inflammation. And that is certainly exacerbated by the social isolation, the difficulty staying connected. I think the difficulty staying connected can lead to a whole other subset of catastrophizing thoughts because it doesn't feel like we have control over what our social relationships look like right now. It's changing on a day-to-day basis what we are and aren't able to do in regards to our social life and our ability to stay connected. I know back when it was starting, we were able to at first have a 3-foot distance, and then it was a 6-foot, and even the amount of people that you were able to interact with in a group was changing pretty drastically too. So not feeling like we have a say or control or even certainty over what our relationships with others and our ability to connect will look like in the near or distant future can really impact us from a mental health and an anxiety standpoint. It's easy to catastrophize and spiral in regards to these concerns, and we know that those more anxious spiraling thoughts can lead to additional panic, dread, because there's a lot of different possibilities and a lot of unknowns, which is why it is vitally important that we remind ourselves that it is normal, it is valid, and it is something that we want to ensure that we can cope with because of the effects that it can have. We're going to start by journaling our responses to the following questions. What type of what-if thoughts do you typically have in relation to COVID-19? And please know that these what-if thoughts might change depending upon when you're watching the video. Maybe you had different thoughts when COVID-19 initially was coming out and affecting the U.S. versus what types of thoughts you have now. Record them anyways. And then what has been the biggest challenge for you in relation to coping with COVID-19? Pause the video to record your responses, and when you're ready, you can press play to move on. Moving into the social isolation piece of things, it is really important that we listen to our public health officials as they continue to urge us to maintain social distancing, to be able to combat against the spread and possible resurgence of COVID-19. And so while it is really important that we do continue to follow what they're saying, it is also vitally important that we talk about the distress that social isolation and loneliness can cause us, because we know that it can cause us emotional distress, it can increase anxiety and depression symptoms, but social isolation and loneliness is also linked to physical problems. According to this study found, and you are welcome to go and explore that study further, it says the health damage caused by social isolation is estimated to increase the risk of early death by 26%, which has been equated to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And I don't put this here to scare you. I put that here in an effort to really validate how important it is that we are discussing the concerns that the current COVID-19 response protocol has on us and our mental health. So if we're not finding ways to accurately cope with the social isolation and loneliness that we are experiencing right now, it can certainly have some pretty drastic effect on us mentally and physically. It is imperative, again, that you continue to monitor and follow the protocols put in place by your local authorities. And while it is imperative that we work to keep ourselves and others safe, it is very, very important that we recognize and validate that we are naturally hardwired for connection. We want to be able to communicate with other people. We want to be able to give handshakes. It's very awkward sometimes introducing yourself now, because I don't know about you all, but I know I naturally go to shake someone's hand and then quickly remind myself that I'm not allowed to do that, or want to hug someone before I'm saying goodbye. So we are hardwired for connection, and it's very habitual to want to reach out and touch another person. And because of this, we want to ensure that we are finding ways to stay connected, to continue to support one another, even if we cannot physically be with another person or touch another person. So I encourage you to start thinking about ways that you can check in with others, other ways that you can stay connected, and how can you do this through more than just an email, a text, or social media, although those are all very important ways to connect to. I encourage people to really focus on calling and utilizing video chat to increase the quality of those social interactions. And we will further talk about this more. So I want you to journal your responses to the following. What have you done to try and stay connected during quarantine? And what makes it difficult to maintain social connection overall? Pause the video to record your responses, and when you're ready, press play to continue. As we've mentioned already, because we know that there are pretty significant physical and health risks to chronic social isolation, loneliness, and being distanced, it is very important that we spend some time discussing strategies to help you stay connected in an effort to combat or reduce those symptoms overall. So the first strategy is 15 minutes each day. And what this is to really narrow in on 15 minutes of quality social interaction with someone. And so when I say quality, my preference is that this is more than an email or a text. Though if that is your only way or only comfortable way of being connected, continue to do that. But my hope would be that we can focus on 15 minutes of a quality phone call or video call interaction with someone. Additionally, to increase the quality of this, I encourage you to dial down on other distractions. Give this person your undivided attention. So instead of having 15 minutes of a distracted interaction with your mom when they finish up with their workday, can you have 15 minutes of a quality phoneless conversation with them? By being able to dial down on distractions, focusing on utilizing call or video, this can really increase the quality of that interaction. And we find that 15 minutes of a meaningful social interaction can be more valuable than 1 hour of a distracted connection. If you are somebody who might find difficult maintaining this, I encourage you to find ways to schedule it in. I encourage you to find somebody that you know you're able to consistently reach out to. Let them know, decide when you two are going to do your Zoom call every day for 15 minutes, and then take turns swapping on and off who reaches out to who. You can also let someone know that you might be struggling reaching out and ask them, hey, would you be willing to call me for a little while, 15 minutes a day? That would really help me. And then from there, once you get more comfortable and able to do it, you can switch on to being able to reach out. But schedule that in, know that you are able to actually reach out to that person, and then perhaps have a list of different people that you can reach out to if that first person is unavailable. But schedule that 15 minutes onto your calendar every day. I want you to think about what type of social contact can you maintain for 15 minutes a day, and who can you reach out to? Start creating that list. What may keep this contact from feeling meaningful for you? So this might be realizing that you feel far more connected seeing someone on a video call than calling, and perhaps you've been spending more time calling than video calling someone. This can really help impact your insight about what's going to be most helpful. And then what's going to keep you from maintaining consistency of this social connection? Begin addressing those barriers right away. Spend some time, record your responses, pause the video to do so, and then when you are ready, press play and we can move on. My second tip is finding ways to serve others. And right now, amidst a crisis, service-related actions are exceptionally valuable, especially for individuals who live alone or who might be amongst a more vulnerable population. So it is really important that we find ways to offer our services to other people, and that we find ways to accept help from others too. We know that chronic loneliness can typically lead to cognitive distortions, and those cognitive distortions are the more difficult, unhelpful thoughts that everybody experiences. So it might be suddenly having the belief that people don't like you, or they might not like you after social distancing, or that wondering if people even care about you, or suddenly you're engaging with a cognitive distortion of fortune telling, deciding what the future is going to look like after quarantine and how your social relationships might be impacted. And because we know that those cognitive distortions lead to some pretty unhelpful additional thought patterns and behaviors, we encourage people to focus on serving others, because we know that service-related work can help shift our focus outward. And by shifting our focus outward, we're able to validate, hey, look at the good that I'm able to do. Look at how I'm able to help other people. And it can really reinforce our own worth and our own contribution to the world. So thinking of ways that we can help others is vitally important. And it's also just as important that we question ways that we can make ourselves feel more comfortable accepting help from other people too. Accepting help can feel very vulnerable, but I encourage you to accept it just as freely as you give it. There's something very powerful both about being the helper as well as being the one being helped. And that quality of connection, even with that vulnerability, can really help strengthen that social interaction and that relationship, which is what we really need right now. When I was leading this workshop live, I was chatting with a couple of students just about different ways that they were struggling to feel connected. And you might be looking at this slide and recognizing your limitations more than you're recognizing what you're able to do. And if this is you, I encourage you to find ways to get creative. If you are limited on having access to a car, and you know that in the ideal world you'd love to take your car around, bring groceries, and have a Meals on Wheels effort with other people, but you know that's not possible, ask yourself what is possible. What can you do without access to a car? Perhaps you can't walk and carry all those groceries, but could you walk and deliver medication to someone, as that's a little bit lighter of a load? Perhaps you're not comfortable taking the public transit system, but you could be able to set that person up that you're wanting to help with groceries with a grocery delivery service. So what is your ideal way of wanting to help people? Are you able to do that? And if not, how can you approach those barriers, make adjustments, and help them anyways? Some great ways to be able to help others can include grocery shopping for them, delivering home-cooked meals, sending delivery food items to them. You can donate blood or plasma. You can help provide a list of resources for them. So if you're not able to prepare meals, or you're not comfortable with that, can you help them get in contact with different local Meals on Wheels services and food-related services as well? getting them connected with a list of resources of mental health providers, and even helping other people can just be reaching out, letting them know that you're thinking of them. So there are very big ways and even small ways that can go a long way in terms of offering service to another. I encourage you to journal the following responses. What is a way you can help another person during this COVID-19 period of time? And then what needs to happen so you can feel more comfortable also accepting help from others? Pause the video to record your responses, and when you're ready, you can press play. My third tip is social media consumption. So I love social media because I believe that it has many benefits, and it also has some consequences to it too. But if we start with the benefits, I know social media can be a very powerful tool for staying connected. So you are able to connect with family, friends, and even acquaintances, and that can provide you a greater sense of community. I know there are plenty of different Instagram community, Facebook communities that you're able to join. People are on lots of different TikTok rampages, creating dances with one another, doing duets with one another. It can really make people feel like they are a part of community, which is vital right now. However, I encourage you to consider using social media intentionally. And what I mean by that is pay attention to the times when you're just mindlessly scrolling on it and 30 minutes to an hour just went by and you didn't feel any sense of connection at all. How can you change the way that you approach social media to use it in a more connected, intentional way? It could be actually engaging with accounts. So looking at content, digesting it in a more intentional way, commenting back and forth, sending voice memos to people on there rather than just responding via text chat or so on and so forth. I also encourage you to be mindful of how social media is making you feel. So really increase that insight. Ask yourself questions like, does this account bring me joy, validation, normalization, or pleasure? Or does following or seeing this person's content cause me to feel more distressed? If your feed is filled with much too much of COVID-19 or the way in which COVID-19 is being discussed in your social media, if that feels unhelpful for you, I encourage you to unfollow this account. If you can't unfollow this account because it could lead to a lot of significant consequences, use the mute button. And if you don't know what the mute button is, I encourage you to Google it. This takes this person off of your Instagram or Facebook feed or their stories, and you're able to take a little bit of a break from digesting that information that's unhelpful for you. So pay attention to those emotions. If you need to make changes, I encourage you to make changes that can help you feel more controlled and empowered to know that when you're going on social media, it's going to be a more helpful space for you. I want you to think about what is the relationship between your anxiety or mental health and COVID-19 social media coverage. And when do you typically feel most distressed by social media? And how can you make changes to who you follow or whose content you see to address this? Record your responses, pause the video to do so, and when you are ready, press play and we can continue. My fourth tip involves setting boundaries on COVID-19 talk. So yes, symptoms are very contagious, but so are emotions. So it is important that we are intentional. I think intentional is my word of this presentation, because we need to not only be intentional about COVID-19 and how we're digesting that information, but who we are talking to and what we may be talking to these people about. Everybody is going to need to feel empathy, to feel validated, normalized, that it's okay for them to be feeling what they're feeling. It's okay to be perhaps coping or responding in the way that we're coping with. We all need that in some capacity, and we might even need some advice about coping strategies right now. But we need to be intentional with how often and how we are discussing COVID-19. I think COVID-19 is coloring a lot of people's conversations right now, even to the point where it's coloring it by us only being able to communicate for the most part virtually. So it is important that we set boundaries and limits on the frequency that COVID-19 is being discussed and perhaps even how it's being discussed. So if you leave a conversation feeling more put down, distressed, anxious, or dejected, ask yourself why. What was happening within that conversation that contributed to this emotional response right now? Could there be anything that you could change about this social interaction in the future to be able to leave this conversation feeling differently? It's vitally important, because our social connection is so limited, that you leave those conversations feeling encouraged and supported and even uplifted rather than more distressed. So I do really encourage you to elicit those boundaries with another person, ask for them, or even think about who are the people who typically don't talk about COVID-19 or talk about COVID-19 in this way, and can you reach out and encourage more social interaction with those people? Just like I want you to think about taking breaks from stressful thoughts and conversations about the pandemic. Can you just enjoy company with another person virtually? So laugh and share stories like who's made the best banana bread this quarantine. Perhaps you just want to talk about things that don't relate to COVID-19 at all. Well, then share memories from the past or things that you're excited about the future, and focus on other aspects of life right now to be able to just create some distance from this global pandemic in general. I encourage you to think about what is a signal that you've had enough COVID-19 talk for the day. So what are those thoughts, emotions, behaviors that let you know that it's time to put in a boundary? And then how can you establish that boundary with a loved one? And what else can you talk about with people right now? I encourage you, create a list of various talking points so you have them readily available. Pause the video to record your responses, and when you're ready, press play and continue. Our fifth and final tip is about getting creative. So again, because we are very limited on ways that we can connect with another person, or you might hop on a call with someone, share the new information that you have, and then be like, oh, well, that's all I have new to share. Gonna hop off, and I only got through about 5, 10, 15 minutes of a conversation. We want to find creative ways to still increase our social connectedness. And this can be more than just talking. And I'll go through that point on point 2, but I want to start with point 1. As life starts opening up, I encourage you to think about how can you have socially distanced hangouts. I know golfing is a socially distanced sport, so can you go to the driving range even by yourself, because you know that you are still relatively around other people. There are other people practicing their golf swing at the socially distanced driving range, or you might even be able to wave and pass people. You could have a bonfire, making sure that you're 6 feet apart. You could go to a park together or go on a socially distanced walk. You could invite people over to your driveway and you can chat 6 feet apart, sit in lawn chairs, so on and so forth. What are ways that you can still be face-to-face with people, but maintain the 6-foot difference to stay adequately safe and healthy? Number 2, as mentioned before, is do more than just talk. So you might need to find other ways to stay connected, because you are recognizing, okay, COVID-19 is taking over to the point where I don't have as much to converse with this person about. I love Zoom because you can share your screen and you're able to do things like watch movies together, or you can even play games on Zoom. I know back when I was in high school, I was obsessed with this game called Bubble Shooter, so I can't say that I haven't contemplated pulling that up and playing that with friends and competing with one another on there. You can have virtual happy hours or coffee dates. You could even cook together, perhaps pull up the same recipe. You both want to make your spaghetti, cook it together, then eat it together over Zoom or FaceTime. There are lots of different workout communities and communities in general. So can you and a friend decide that you're going to go on a walk together, but you're going to do it over FaceTime? Or you're both going to do separate workouts, but you're going to do it on Zoom because you want to be able to hold each other accountable and feel like you're together. There's lots of different live events that you can tune into as well. So if you choose to do this by yourself or with others, I encourage you to look up some nice live streamed concerts. Are there virtual tours that you can take together of museums, national parks? And there's a lot related to Google Arts and Culture. I encourage you to go and explore that, as well as your ability to take virtual cooking classes. So spend some time, search this. Everybody right now is trying to find ways to continue their services even though it has to look different. So I encourage you to tune in and try out those live events in means of still staying connected. And then have a virtual game night. I have seen people play poker with one another over Zoom, things like Go Fish. Just the other day in a staff meeting, individuals played Hangman together by sharing the screen. There are lots of different ways that you can have virtual game nights to stay connected with people. I encourage you to journal your responses. What are some signs that you need to become more socially engaged? And in what ways can you become more socially engaged in the upcoming days and weeks? Create a concrete plan for what that's going to look like. Press pause to record your responses, and when you're ready, press play and we can move on. So there are some other great resources that are through CAPS and then just in general. The first resource is Quarantine Buddies, and this is something that an Indiana University student came up with. He came up with the idea to find ways to stay connected with people. So what you can do is you can Google search this, find this website, and you're able to list what you're looking for in a buddy. And then you will get matched with someone and you're able to schedule virtual hangouts and stay connected. So if you're wanting to connect with people outside of your circle or perhaps expand your circle in general, this can be a wonderful resource to be able to get some additional ways to meet people even though it's virtual. There are also support groups through CAPS. So if you are already connected with our services and you're looking to be able to connect with a support group, talk with your therapist about this, or you can visit our website. We're running plenty of different support groups online to be able to continue to meet students' needs on various topics. If you are not connected with CAPS, you can give us a call at 812-855-5711 to schedule an initial session, and you can talk with that therapist about support groups. And we'll talk about this a little bit later too. There's also great online platforms such as Nextdoor. This is a neighborhood-based outreach, so you're able to see what other people in your surrounding areas and communities are doing to stay involved. So what volunteer options are available. This can be a really great way to think outside of the box, and you might even notice that there are different initiatives within your community that you weren't aware of before. Patients Like Me allows you to connect with other individuals who might be immunocompromised. So this can be very important to ensure that you are connecting with individuals who are experiencing what you might be experiencing too. And WhatsApp, I love this. It is a free phone app that you're able to use to be able to communicate with people internationally. So perhaps you have friends or family that are abroad. This is a great option to be able to text, and it even has calling and video features available. You do need to have access to Wi-Fi or service in general to be able to utilize this. And then GroupMe. GroupMe is a great group texting platform. I know that there are lots of different GroupMe communities that you would be able to join to stay connected, or you can create this with various communities within your support system too. So creating group chats, sending funny memes, funny perhaps TikTok videos, different articles, finding ways to stay connected can be very helpful. So I encourage you to explore all of those 4 resources listed in general, and then certainly explore them more if they feel like they could be a good fit for you. So let's say that you went through this entire video and you notice that this is helpful, but it's not quite enough. Some good indicators that you might be needing additional services include an increase in other mental health symptoms like depression or anxiety or anything else, change in sleep, appetite, or hygiene, any reduced functioning related to academics, like you're not logging on for your virtual classes. Socially, perhaps you have a lot of different coffee dates and you haven't logged on to any of them, or any other related functioning. And then, of course, any thoughts of suicide, homicide, or self-harm. Those are all indicators that seeking additional services is necessary. So the Counseling and Psychological Services Office, CAPS, who this workshop is through, we are still offering services. Now I'm going to speak to what our services do look like right now amidst the COVID-19 crisis, but I encourage you to always check our website to confirm and look for any possible changes, as we know the situation related to the pandemic is always changing. We are continuing to offer our services via video or phone, and we continue to have individual and group counseling as well as couples counseling. If you are already connected but just need to get back in touch with your provider, you can schedule an appointment by dialing 812-855-5711. Just make sure you give your information and perhaps the name of the provider. If you can't remember, they'll look it up for you and you can get scheduled. If you are a first-time client of CAPS, you're wanting to make an appointment for the very first time, you can call that same number to do so. You are able to decide if you want to see this clinician via phone or video, and you will get scheduled for an initial 30-minute appointment. You and that counselor are going to focus on addressing and assessing what you're needing for that appointment, as well as making a game plan for the future. If that includes additional video or phone therapy sessions, if that includes trying some different interventions, doing a support group, or any other resources through CAPS, the community, or on campus. We always have crisis services available. You can access that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by dialing 812-855-5711 and select option 1. We also have sexual assault crisis services, which I'll talk about later, as well as many other free workshops. So if you enjoyed this video today, I encourage you to explore our other video library. We are going to continue to upload videos to this that relate to various topics that we hear our students coming in with, as well as live workshops. So again, explore our website to see the dates and times of live workshops just like this, or live workshops like mindfulness, or other related options as well. And then, as mentioned before, we do have an extension of CAPS called our Sexual Assault Crisis Services, or known as CAPS. So these are free services, which includes individual group counseling, support groups, couples counseling, psychiatry care, information and assistance with medical, judicial, or legal issues. And this is available for anybody who's coming in wanting to focus on discussing concerns that are related to anything like sexual violence, harassment, dating violence, domestic assault, violence, rape, sexual assault, stalking. So if you're wanting to receive services on this, or this is contributing to anything you're wanting to talk about at CAPS, you are able to work with a provider to receive free services. And this provider is someone who specializes in trauma-informed care and working with individuals who have experienced sexual violence. These services are available to all gender and all identities as well. And then please know, if you are experiencing an emergency or need to talk with someone after hours for emergent or crisis-oriented needs, you can call 812-855-8900. It is important to note, however, that this number is different than the CAPS after hours line. So if you ever get them confused, you can let that person know and they will direct you to the right place. That is all that we have for today's video. If you are looking to explore additional videos, you are able to access our website to do so, both pre-recorded and live, and just continue to explore our website. Follow us on social media for up-to-date information about what CAPS is doing to support students amidst this crisis and how our services are changing in response to that. And if you are needing anything or want to schedule an appointment, as a reminder, you can call 812-855-5711.